favorite novel. And to talk about this Wuthering Height is my pleasure. And I'm really glad to talk to a new bunch of talents or people who are especially interested in literature, English literature. So we'll start with the presentation today. As you know, the topic of my presentation is Gothic elements, which are present in the novel of Emily Bronte, that is Wuthering Heights. Wait a minute, I will share my presentation. Okay, then. Yes, we'll start with this Wuthering Heights. Before going to start Wuthering Heights, I just want to give an introduction to the author, who is the most unique and different from all the major novelists of the 19th century. Here we, in a way, can say Emily Bronte, who is one of the sisters of among Charlotte Bronte, Anne Bronte. This Emily Bronte is the middle one. So I think you people are familiar with Charlotte Bronte, isn't it? Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. I hope so. If not, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre is the most famous novel of the 19th century, in par with Charles Dickens and other writers like Thomas Hardy, George Eliot, and others. Being a sister of Charlotte Bronte, when we compare both of them, this Emily Bronte stands so different. Why? Because Emily Bronte never chose the major themes or consequences which are in a way common among all the other novelists. She never shows the contemporary issues in her novel. Especially, she had written only one novel, that is Wuthering Height. Why she didn't choose the contemporary themes or issues? Because as we see her background, she is introvert. She is not much exposed to the outer world than her village, which is located in Yorkshire, which is especially in the northern region of England. So, being an introvert and not exposed to the outer world or outer urban life, she wants to highlight what's there in her native, that is the people and the place. So throughout the novel Wuthering Heights, you can see how this Emily Bronte presents her people and her place in a very vivid way. Okay, to talk more about Emily Bronte, as I said, she had written only one novel, that is Wuthering Heights, she composed a few poems. This is also said to be the collection of poems named as Gondola Poems. That's her work. And she lived for a very short span of time, that is from 1880 to 1848. And especially this Wuthering Height, the novel Wuthering Height, was published in 1847. 1847, just 1 year before her death. So this novel, which was filled with lots of passion, lots of unbelievably abnormal or unconventional characters, which was largely opposed by the readers of the Victorian society. As we know that Victorian society is the most conventional society. They have their own tradition, taboos, rules, everything. So they denied what this Emily Bronte in a way introduced in her novel. But today, especially after her death and after centuries, after decades, we are in a way reading Wuthering Heights, and it has become one of the classics of 19th century and one of the most popular novel of the 19th century. So this is regarding her writing, her life, and why she concentrated on only the Yorkshire and the people and its inhabitants. Uh, then moving on to the Wuthering Heights, and especially on the topic Gothic novel. So here, Gothic. What do you mean by Gothic? First, I want to ask you, what's the meaning of it? Gothic ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
Horror?
Hello? Horror. Yes, Gothic. It in a way filled with horror, a kind of terror, fear, and it's the amalgamation of many emotions. Okay, so uh, in my presentation, I'm going to discuss some basic elements or some important elements of Gothic novel. That is, the following elements, which are which is there in the slide, will make you know. First of all, the Gothic element, especially the word Gothic, which is derived from Indo-European language, okay, especially the German language. So you can't find out a similar or a substitute, not similar, but substitute in Kannada. Even in Kannada, ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೂ ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ನ ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಈ ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಏನಾದ್ರು ಅರ್ಥ ಹುಡುಕ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಗೋ ಅಂತದ್ದು ಹಲವಾರು ಅರ್ಥಗಳು ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಾಟ್ ಒನ್ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಕನ್ವೆ ದ ವರ್ಡ್ ಗಾಥಿಕ್. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಿಗೂಢ, ಒಂದ್ ರೀತಿ ವಿಕೃತ, ಒಂದು ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಹಳೆ ಪುರಾತನವಾದ್ದು, ಈ ತರದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಅರ್ಥಗಳು ಸೇರ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೋ ಒಂದ್ ರೀತಿ ಈ ಸೂಪರ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. when you go on reading, go on immersing in yourself in the novel, then you will feel that fear or terror or the presence of supernatural elements. That is something Gothic. Okay. First point, I would like to mention that Gothic element is introduced by a novelist in her novel through the settings. Okay, through the settings. That is a haunted castle or house. Okay, haunted castle or house. As we see in the PPT, first ಗೆ ನಾನು ಒಂದು PPT li Wuthering Heights ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಇದನ್ನ ತೋರಿಸಿದೆ. That is a castle or a mansion which is located on the heights of Wuthering Height. Okay, on a hilltop. So ಆ ಒಂದು castle ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆ darkness, ಇದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ settings, that will set the mood of the reader towards the fear or the terror which we are going to sense in the novel. So that is one major thing. Okay, they, especially all the novelists who had written this Gothic novel or who used it Gothic elements in their novel, they set this atmosphere to make the readers set into the mood of this horror and terror. So that is the one thing. Another thing is mystery and suspense. Okay, or fear. Yes, especially when the setting is like that, then it is followed up with a kind of mystical element. Mystery. What is mystery? Mystery and rain. So which cannot be analyzed under any scientific reasoning. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಸೈಂಟಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ರೀಸನಿಂಗ್ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಏನು ಎತ್ತ ಅಂತ ವಿಮರ್ಶೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದೇ ಕಾರಣ ಅಂತ ತಿಳಿಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಅರಿವಿಗೆ ನಿಲುಕದಂತ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಥ ಹುಡ್ಕಕ್ ಆಗದೆ ಇರೋಂತ ಒಂದು ಇದನ್ನ ಕುತೂಹಲ ಮೂಡಿಸುವಂತದ್ದು, ಒಂದು ನಿಗೂಢವಾದ ಒಂದು ಇದನ್ನ ಈ ಒಂದು ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ದೆನ್ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್, ದ ವೆದರ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಆಫುಲ್. ಈ ಒಂದು ಅಟ್ಮಾಸ್ಫಿಯರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೇನೆ ಆ ವೆದರ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. The castle, which is located on the hilltop, which is said to be the Wuthering Heights. Okay, that is in a way always exposed to the harsh wind of the north. Okay, northern harsh wind ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೀಸ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Very harsh, very cloudy, gloomy nature, very dark, and something which is unusual. So ಈ weather condition ಇರುತ್ತೆ, that weather also makes us to think that we are in some unfriendly place. ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯೂಶುವಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದು ವಿಭಿನ್ನವಾದ ವಿಚಿತ್ರವಾದ ಒಂದು ಅನುಭವಗಳಾಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ weather condition of that means novel or the place. Then as I said, presence of supernatural elements, yes, especially mystery and suspense, always in a way interlinked with supernatural elements. Supernatural elements, which is in a way included the appearance of ghost, some spirits, evil spirits, or some other things like this. So there is a picture beside the points, right? So that in that picture we'll see a ghost, a child ghost, which is in a way outside of the window, is pulling the hand of a person. I will discuss this picture later on, which is related to the novel. But supernatural elements ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ದೆವ್ವ, ಭೂತ, ಪ್ರೇತಾತ್ಮಗಳು ಈ ರೀತಿ ಕಾಣುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Then to the next point, that is dreams and nightmares or nightmares. ಕನಸುಗಳು, ಬರೀ ಅದು ಕನಸುಗಳಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ನೈಟ್ ಬೇರ್ಸ್, ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಕಾಡುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಕೆಟ್ಟ ಕನಸುಗಳ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಕೆಲಸನ ಈ ರೈಟರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಇನ್ ದ Wuthering Heights, I will come across such a scene which is very means important or a crucial scene in the novel. Nightmare. ಒಂದು ಕೆಟ್ಟ ಕನಸಿನ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಸೂಪರ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು. ದೆನ್ romance, yes, we call Gothic novels or the Gothic elements which are present in these novels as also a part of dark romanticism. Dark romanticism ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ರೊಮ್ಯಾಂಟಿಸಿಸಮ್ 18th ಸೆಂಚುರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆದಂತ ರೊಮ್ಯಾಂಟಿಸಿಸಮ್ಗೂ 19th ಸೆಂಚುರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಂತ ನಾವೆಲ್ಸಿಗೂ there is a kind of connection. And when we go back to the historical points of the Gothic elements ಅನ್ನೋದು late 17th ಸೆಂಚುರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆದಂತದ್ದು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಯೂಶುವಲಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ನಾವೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಬಂತು. You might have heard about Frankenstein, Shelley's Frankenstein. That's the most famous Gothic novel, and it is also said to be the scientific Gothic novel. So anta ಒಂದು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ, so ಈ dark romanticism ಬೇರೆ, ಈ romance means the love and romance, a very passionate love story which is there in the novel also indicates this. So you come across such a passionate love story in this Wuthering Heights. Then the seventh point is anti-hero or the presence of villain. Why it is anti-hero? Means this is like anti-protagonist anta helbodu, anti-hero anta helbodu. Illi baruvanta character Heathcliff is the main character, which in a way stands from the beginning to the end of the novel. So Heathcliff, though he seems, though he has all the qualities of a hero, but he turns out to be an anti-hero. So what's the reason? That will be discussed later. So that's the anti-hero. And a villain, means revengeful villainistic attitude of a character is very much important in a Gothic novel. So without revenge, without hatredness, without all these things, you will not fulfill the interest in the Gothic novel. So this is also one of the essential element. Then moving on to emotional distress. Yes, emotional distress ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಮಾನಸಿಕವಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ತಳಮಳ ಉಂಟಾಗುವಂಥದ್ದು. Emotionally, emotion is all kind of emotions. It's not only love, hatred, or something like revenge or sympathy or happiness. Everything is like filled with lots of tumult. So ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಒಂದ್ ರೀತಿ ತಳಮಳ ಆಗ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬ್ಡ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ನಾಟ್ ಸ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಫೈಡ್ ಇನ್ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಹೌ the novel is filled with especially the characters which comes. It may be Heathcliff or another one main character, the means heroine of the novel, that is Catherine. Okay, Catherine. So here you come across such a kind of distress among both of them. They are not particular, they are not in a way means in a good um, what mood to decide what's good for their life. So this is how it happens. Then damsel in distress. Damsel in distress. Damsel is what we can say the heroine of the story or the novel. So she always encounter a kind of problematic thing. She always in some trouble, and the death of the uh, this lady will lead to a kind of revengeful, or a kind of the appearance of ghost, or leading to a kind of curiosity or suspense in the story. So these are the basic elements. It's not only applicable to the Wuthering Heights, but almost all the Gothic novels consist of almost these basic elements. In addition to this, it's not there in the Wuthering Heights, so that I didn't mention. But in addition to this, some curses are omen. Omen or curse. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನ omen ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ? ಕರ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಶಾಪ, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಸೂಚನೆಗಳು, ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯ ಒಂದು ಸೂಚನೆಗಳಿಂದ ಅವರು ತಿಳಿತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. Okay, we'll move on to family map. Yeah, whatever we discussed, these are the basic elements of a Gothic novel, which makes
sorry to interrupt, ma'am. What is Onam?
Omen is ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಈ ಅಪಶಕುನಗಳು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ.
Ma'am, please in English.
Yeah, omen is some bad signals. It may be in the form of nightmare, or it may be like what we say, if a cat crosses the road when we are traveling, we think that it's a bad omen. We should not move. We should wait and move for a while. So like that, omen is a kind of bad signals. Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, something going to happen, something a bad or evil thing is going to happen, that is in a way means we sense that, so that is omen. So curse is something shapa anta ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, someone curses us. So those all things which are involved in the Gothic novel. So yes, we'll move on to Wuthering Heights, how it is in a way present in Wuthering Heights now. So before going to discuss all these things, you should know how the story starts, how it occurs in Wuthering Heights. As I said in my in the last slide, there is a picture. There is a picture where a man is in a way pulling out the hand of a child ghost. So that is the Lockwood. Lockwood is the narrator of Wuthering Heights. Okay, the story starts from the narration of Lockwood. Lockwood especially not belongs to Wuthering Heights. He is an outsider. He is from the city of London. He is in search of a house for tenant, or being a tenant, he is searching for a house for rent. Okay, ಅವನಿಗೊಂದು ಮನೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಉಳಿಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. He wants to move from say urban to rural side. So he's searching for that, and he also got to know that Wuthering Heights, from someone, he got to know that Wuthering Heights will be given on rent. So he visits that Wuthering Heights for once or twice to meet the owner of it. The owner is Heathcliff, the main character of the novel. So the novel starts with the mention of the year 1801. So 1801. ಈ 1801 ನಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಈ ನಾವೆಲ್. Adu with the visit of Lockwood and with his description how the whole Wuthering Heights appears ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ describe ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ ಅವನು. So descriptionally you will get to know that it's a very unusual place, very unusual, very unfriendly place, filled with lots of not so normal things. On the description, it goes up to 3 chapters. First 3 chapters will set the mood of Gothic and will set the mood of something which is going to happen or something is there in that castle. So ಇದು ಈ ಒಂದು ಇದನ್ನ set ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. Like that, in his observation or in his view, it's a dark place filled with lots of gloominess, and the people who are there in the Wuthering Height are somewhat not normal. They are not ready to accept the outsider. These are the things which we get to know through the observation of Lockwood. But for first and second visit, he didn't get an opportunity to meet Heathcliff. So he comes back, and then again, for the last time, he wants to visit, and if not, he wants to go back. So on his third visit, he met Heathcliff, and before meeting Heathcliff, he also come across a pack of wild dogs, especially wild dogs, but it was in a way there in the Wuthering Heights. Okay, it was looked after by Heathcliff and servants at the home. So the howling sound of the dogs and that dark weather, storm and wind, all filled a kind of ghostly atmosphere over there at that night. So when he visits, it's already night, and he was not able to return from Wuthering Heights. So he stayed over there for that night with the permission of Heathcliff. Though Heathcliff is not happy regarding his stay, but there was no choice, so he allowed him to stay in that Wuthering Height. On that night, when he was in a way, went upstairs in that dark-filled areas, he was in a way, accidentally went into a chamber. There he got some books, old books, and some portrayals or the pictures, old pictures. So he noticed all such things, and he started to read out a book, which is especially the diary, which was written by the main character, another one main character, that is Catherine Earnshaw. Okay, so this Catherine Earnshaw, she had written the story. So her own story, day-to-day things in that diary. He was reading that. Meanwhile, he went, he fell asleep. ನಿದ್ರೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅವನು ಮಲ್ಕೊಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. So in that time, on that time, all of a sudden he he got a nightmare. It may be a nightmare or something which is very confusing. Okay, ಒಂದ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಅನುಭವ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. And that he saw the ghost of that Catherine, which is incarnated in the form of a child. Catherine Earnshaw, she died months when she not died as a child, but in his dream she appeared as a child. Okay, she appeared as a child, and she started to tell something to tries to tell something to Lockwood, that is, let me in, let me in. Okay, I just want to read that passage for you to make you know. Yeah, so yes, here it is. I muttered, knocking my knuckles through the glass and stretching an arm out to seize the importunate branch, instead of which my fingers closed on the fingers of a little ice-cold hand. The intense horror of nightmare came over me. I tried to draw back my arm, but the hand clung to it, and a most melancholy voice sobbed, "Let me in, let me in." "Who are you?" I asked, struggling meanwhile to immense. "Catherine Linton," it replied shiveringly. I had read Earnshaw 20 times for Linton. I come home, I had lost my way on the moor. As it spoke, I discerned obscurely a child's face looking through the window. So this is how she appears for Lockwood as a child. She is in a way the ghost is pleading for him, "Let me in, let me in." So this is the most terrorful scene which appears in chapter 3. So the voice, in a way, filled a kind of fear and the mindset of Lockwood. Though he's a very civilized person from Victorian society, he can't control his emotions. So he started to feel very bad, and he rudely reacted to that the little ghost. That is, terror made me cruel, and finding it useless to attempt shaking the creature off, I pulled its wrist onto the broken pane and rubbed it to and fro till the blood ran down, and so could the bedclothes. Still it wailed, "Let me in." See, this is how he wants to escape from the hands of that little ghost. And he also made a plea to the ghost. "How can I said at length, "let me go if you want me to let you in." So there is a kind of a kind of conversation in between the ghost and the Lockwood, which appears in chapter 3 for the first time in the novel. In that, he says that if you let me go, means let me free, then I can let you into this chamber. So by telling all these things, he got free from the hands of that little ghost, and later uh, means he thought it's all happened in a nightmare or a dream, but the scream, the way he in a way cried, it made Heathcliff to means, visit that um, room. He came and he interrupted. He, in a way, asked, "Who let you into this room?" and all. So all such things happened. This is how the ghost appears for the first time in the novel. So this is the terror-filled scene and the Wuthering Heights. Then later on, after moving from there, this Lockwood started to think for months, for many a time, that he read in that diary the name Catherine Earnshaw, but in the dream she was introduced to a ghost, which in a way says that she is Catherine Linton. That made a difference. That made him to think, is it a dream or is it real? So this is how the Gothic elements, which are presented very captively in the novel. Then this is a kind of introductory part. Then later on, in the mid of the novel, you will get to know the story, the background story. It all, in a way, takes us to the flashback in the form of flashback. We are, in a way, introduced to the main character, the family of Catherine and Linton's. Okay, so here in the map, you will get to know that Mr. Earnshaw and Mrs. Earnshaw, their age is 1780s. Okay, we are in a way taken back to 1780s through the second narrator of the story, that is Nellie Dean. Okay, so what you got to know that there are two narrators in the story. One is Lockwood, who is an outsider, who is a visitor to Wuthering Heights, and the second narrator is Nellie Dean. Okay, Nellie is the lady who was a housemaid in the Wuthering Heights. Okay, she is in a way the what she's very close to the family of Earnshaw and Linton. She knows each and every incidents which happened in the life of Earnshaws and Lintons. So she started to give the uh, description of their life, their revenge, love, whatever which happens in the novel to Lockwood. So she started to tell that before going to tell you the story, means other part of the story, I want to make you know that here there is a family map. In this, it's not so easy to understand or memorize the characters which appears in the novel because there is a repetition of names. The same names repeats with a little change in their surnames, so you may get into the confusion. So it's better to know that Mr. Earnshaw and Mrs. Earnshaw are the father and mother of Catherine and Edgar. Okay? Catherine and Edgar. So they have two children. Catherine is the daughter. Edgar is the son of Mr. Earnshaw and Mrs. Earnshaw. They are in a way they were in a way residing in Wuthering Heights. So Heathcliff again is an outsider. He's also said to be a gypsy boy, a vagabond, a barbarian. Many names were given to Heathcliff. Why? Because he was an orphan, was brought to Wuthering Heights by Mr. Earnshaw. Okay, on a ride, he came across that orphan child. So, with lots of sympathy, kindness, and love, he took Heathcliff to Wuthering Heights. So, Edgar, Catherine, and Heathcliff belongs to Wuthering Heights. Then, coming down to Thrushcross Grange, that is also under one castle or a mansion, which is there in Yorkshire. So the whole story happens in between Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. So in Thrushcross Grange, there is a family, a very reputed and rich family, who has lots of respect and power in the society. That is Mr. Linton family. Okay, Linton's family, Mr. Linton and Mrs. Linton. So they had two children. That is, uh, yeah, Isabella Linton. So yeah, I'm really sorry. This Edgar belongs to Linton family, and Hindley and Catherine are the daughter and son of Earnshaw. I apologize for that. Okay, Isabella and Edgar belongs to Linton family, and Catherine and Hindley belongs to Earnshaw's families. So this is how. So they are very sophisticated, cultured, civilized, well-mannered family, which usually represent the typical family of a Victorian society. Mr. and Mrs. Linton's family in Thrushcross Grange. So this is how the family tree is. Then moving on to next step, this Heathcliff, who is an outsider to the family of Earnshaw, got a kind of friendliness or a warm welcome from the side of Catherine. None other than Catherine. No one in Earnshaw's family are happy with the appearance of Heathcliff. Even Catherine was not good or empathetic or sympathetic towards Heathcliff in the beginning. But later on, they become good friends. They started to go rounds in that moors. Okay, moor. What do you mean by moor? What's the meaning of moor? So moor, which is also a symbolic thing which is used in the novel. Moor andre ಈ ಬಂಜರು ಭೂಮಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, barren land. Especially in that barren land, you will come across kind of bushy things. Okay, shrubs ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಇಲ್ಲ bushy things which was a thorny means kind of plant. ಸೊ ಅದು ಬೆಳೆದಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಬೆಳೆನ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಫಲವತ್ತಾದ ಭೂಮಿ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬೆಳೆ ಬೆಳಿಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಹುಲ್ಲುಗಾವಲು ಅಂತಾನು ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ರೀಜನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಮೂಡ್ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಥ್ರಶ್ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಗ್ರೇಂಜ್ ಅಂಡ್ Wuthering Heights. It plays a vital role, even filling up a kind of Gothic element to the novel. So they started to means roam around those moors. They started to enjoy each other companionship. So a strong bond in between Catherine and Heathcliff started to grow up. But Hindley always against Heathcliff. He is somewhat the villain to the life of this Heathcliff and Catherine. Being the brother of Catherine, he is so protective of Catherine. He doesn't want to see Catherine in the company of Heathcliff. He always objects, and he always, in a way, teases this Heathcliff, remembering his background. These all things were happening. So later on, Hindley was sent to his education outside of Yorkshire. So in this time, Catherine and Heathcliff became more close and more intimate. Uh, so they started to enjoy each other's companionship. So this is how their relationship becomes stronger and stronger day after day, year after year. So this is how the things were happening at the side of Wuthering Heights. But at the side of Thrushcross Grange, the most sophisticated family, which in a way have two child, as I said, Isabella and Edgar. They both, in a way, Edgar being the eldest brother of Isabella, he even more protective. They are more civilized, very decent. Such a thing which is there in the character of Edgar and Isabella. So all of a sudden, on one morning, with the death of Mr. Earnshaw, this Catherine and Hindley and even Heathcliff become somewhat uh, orphaned. Okay, ಅವರು ಅನಾಥರಾಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. So they don't have any guardians to guard over their life. So Hindley returned back from his what his urban life or city life, where he went for studies and other things. But while returning back, Hindley was married to Frances. So he returned back with Frances, his wife, to Wuthering Heights. So with the return of Hindley and Frances, everything changed. Everything, especially in the life of Catherine and Heathcliff, everything started to change. Hindley became more protective of Catherine. He wants to avoid Heathcliff. He wants to show Heathcliff what's his position in the family. He wants to remember him that he doesn't, he never belongs to his family. So the ill treatment, a kind of inhuman treatment, started by Hindley to the part of Heathcliff. So this, in a way, really made Heathcliff to get saddened. But Catherine and Heathcliff started to meet secretly. So they started to roam over the moor, and they wanted to escape from the hands of Hindley. So they crossed the borders of this Wuthering Heights, and on one day, accidentally, they went to the house of this Thrushcross Grange. That's the turning point. Accidentally, they went to the house of this Thrushcross Grange, where means the domestic dogs which were there in the Thrushcross Grange, they attacked these two means Catherine and Heathcliff. Somehow Heathcliff escaped from the hands of those ferocious dogs, but Catherine got hurt, and she caught by Linton's. So when they got to know that this Catherine is from Wuthering Heights, and she somehow entered to their place, they took her inside their house. They started to treat her very carefully. This, in a way, makes lots of changes in the perspectives of Catherine towards the people, society, and she started to calculate what's important in the life. Okay, this is for the first time Catherine is away from Heathcliff and away from Wuthering Heights and away from the influence of all such wild mood. Okay, ಆ ಒಂದು ಅನ್ಸಿವಿಲೈಸ್ಡ್ ಅನ್ಕಲ್ಚರ್ಡ್ ವೈಲ್ಡರ್ನೆಸ್ ತುಂಬಿರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಜಾಗದಿಂದ ಅವಳು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ದೂರ ಇರ್ತಾಳೆ. That for a week or 10 days she stayed in the house of Lincolns. Okay, even Hindley got to know what happened, and then Hindley allowed it with full heartedly. So Catherine stayed in the house of Lincolns. Isabella and Edgar took lots of care of Catherine, and Catherine started to learn the Victorian etiquettes for the first time. Okay, ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಈ ಮ್ಯಾನರಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ. She was very rude and rough, very natural. Okay, ಅವಳು ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಎಮೋಷನ್ಸ್ನು ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹಿಡಿದಿಟ್ಟಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಹುಡುಗಿ ಅಲ್ವೇ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅವಳು. She is very realistic in her nature. That to be with the influence of Heathcliff. Heathcliffನ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಫ್ಲೂಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವಳು ತುಂಬಾ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾಳೆ. So they were bold, very fierce in their nation, very passionate. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ನೇಚರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. But when she came across these two, Isabella and Edgar, she started to compare herself to their lifestyle, their mannerism, and even she took interest in learning the mannerisms. Okay, so she stayed for a good amount of time, and she learned all such things, and she was in a way fascinated by the prestige, rank, and societal position of those Thrushcross Grange people, Linton's family. And she returned back from that Linton's family to Wuthering Heights. Now she's totally changed late. Though she is interested in Heathcliff, she is in a dilemma now, because Edgar Linton is also in love with Catherine. He wants to marry Catherine, and Hindley is very happy with the proposal of Linton's family. Especially Hindley, who is always in a way wants to avoid this Heathcliff. ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಹಿಂಡ್ಲೆಗೆ ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ರಿವೆಂಜ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಟಿಟ್ಯೂಡ್ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದು ಅವನ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ನೆಗ್ಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಅವನಿಂದ ದೂರ ಇಡಬೇಕು ನನ್ನ ತಂಗಿನ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಭಾವನೆ ಇದೆ. ಅಂತ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಡ್ಗರ್ ಲಿಂಟನ್, ದಟ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಥ್ರಶ್ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಗ್ರೇಂಜ್, ಇವಳನ್ನ ಮದುವೆ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅವಳ ಪ್ರಪೋಸಲ್ ತಂದಾಗ ಈಸ್ ದ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿಯೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್. He accepted the proposal, and he also talked with Catherine. And Catherine is in a dilemma. For the first time, she doesn't know what to do, what to decide, what's good for her life. So now, what we can say is Catherine in a way made a blunder mistake here. She she in a way fascinated by only the outer look, outer life, the societal standards at that time. So in a confusion, she accepted the proposal of Edgar and denied the real or the true love of Heathcliff. Okay, ಅವಳಿಗೂ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಸ್ಥಾನ, ಮಾನ, ಒಂದು ಗೌರವ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲದನ್ನು ನಾನು ಪಡಿಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಎಡ್ಗರ್ನ ಮದ್ವೆ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕೇನೋ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ ನ ಮದ್ವೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಪೊಸಿಷನ್ ಸಿಗಲ್ವೇನೋ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ಗೆ ಬಂದು she in a way it took lots of time, but later she accepted Edgar's proposal. So with the acceptance of this proposal, Heathcliff became alone. Heathcliff started to feel that loneliness. He was not in a position to avoid anything. He was not in a position to get back Catherine. So he left Wuthering Heights. He ran away from Wuthering Heights, or he disappeared from Wuthering Heights. So that is also another one turning point. ಈ ಕಡೆ ಕ್ಯಾಥರಿನ್ ಎಡ್ಗರ್ನ ಮದುವೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಅರೇಂಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಹೆತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ with lots of disheartedness, a kind of with heavy heart, he disappeared from Wuthering Heights. ಅವನು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದ ಏನು ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ. So Catherine, in a way, he married Edgar with lots of hope to live a new life with new lifestyle. But she started to sense that it's not her life. It's not her life because she never lived her life in such a manner. Okay, she was a free soul. ಅವಳು ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಏನ್ ಇಷ್ಟ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಹೇಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಹಾಗಿದ್ದವಳು. ಈಗ ಎಡ್ಗರ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಗೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ವಿಕ್ಟೋರಿಯನ್ ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಅವಳು ಒಪ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋದು ತುಂಬಾ ಕಷ್ಟ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಅವಳಿಗೆ. ಸೊ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಶಿ ಇನ್ ಅ ವೇ ಸ್ಲೋಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಹರ್ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಟು ದ family and the Victorian lifestyle, and she's also about to fall in love with Edgar. Okay, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ Heathcliff ಇಲ್ವೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. Already 3 years went off and there was no news at all regarding Heathcliff. Heathcliff ಏನಾದ ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಯಾರಿಗೂ, ಅವನ ಸುದ್ದಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಇವಳು ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮರ್ತ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಾಳೆ. ಮರ್ತ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಇನ್ನೇನ್ ಎಡ್ಗರ್ನ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡಕ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾಳೆ ಅನ್ನೋಷ್ಟ್ರಲ್ಲಿ the appearance of Heathcliff happens. He came back. Suddenly a star appeared in Thrushcross Grange. Now he is fully transformed. ತುಂಬಾ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ Heathcliff ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Heathcliff is no more that wild barbarian or a gypsy kind of boy. He's a well matured, handsome guy with all what Catherine looked for in Edgar. Edgar ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ ಇಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಮದ್ವೆ ಆದ್ಲು ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಈಗ Heathcliff ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Heathcliff learnt the good accent. ಅವ್ಳ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರಲ್ಲ, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ಸರಿಗೆ, ಯಾವ್ದನ್ನು ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ವೆಲ್ ಮ್ಯಾನರ್ಡ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾನೆ. He learnt all the things which we call a gentleman of Victorian age knows. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜೆಂಟಲ್ಮನ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಯಾರನ್ನ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ವಿಕ್ಟೋರಿಯನ್ ಏಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಏನೆಲ್ಲಾ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲದು Heathcliff ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಾನೆ. Now he has money, he has status, he has all such things which Catherine didn't find out in the older Heathcliff. So this is how he appears, and now Catherine is like wonderstruck. Catherine ಅವನನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯ ಪಡ್ತಾಳೆ. Catherine now yes, always Catherine in a deeper set of mind or deeper inner way, Catherine is in love with Heathcliff always. Catherine always find out Heathcliff is somewhat a kind of a reflection of Catherine. ಅವಳ ಒಂದು ಮಾತಲ್ಲೇ ಅವಳು ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ, I am Heathcliff ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ. There is no comparison. ನಾನೇ Heathcliff, ಅವನು ನಾನೇ, ನಾನು ಅವನೇ ಅನ್ನೋ ರೀತಿಲಿ ನೆಲ್ಲಿ ಡೀನ್ ಹತ್ರ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರ್ತಾಳೆ ಅವಳು. ನೆಲ್ಲಿ ಡೀನ್ is the one who knows very much about Catherine's mindset, Catherine's feelings and Heathcliff's feelings. ಇವರಿಬ್ರು ನಡುವೆ ಇದ್ದದ್ದು ನೆಲ್ಲಿ ಡೀನ್. ಅವಳು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಒಂದು ಈ ಇದನ್ನ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾಳೆ. ಸೊ ಅವಳ ಹತ್ರ ತುಂಬಾ ಮುಕ್ತವಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾಳೆ. ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡದೇ ಇದ್ರು ತನ್ನಲ್ಲಾಗೋ ಒಂದು ಎಮೋಷನಲ್ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಟುಮಲ್ಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಅನ್ಸ್ತಾ ಅಂತ ಯಾವುದೇ ವಿಷಯ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅವಳ ಹತ್ರ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾಳೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಶಿ ಫೀಲ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ Heathcliff. ನಾನು Heathcliff ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ನನ್ಗೆ ಅವನನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬದುಕಕ್ ಸಾಧ್ಯನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂತ ತುಂಬಾ ಸರಿ ಹೇಳಿರ್ತಾಳೆ. Now she again started to feel the same love for Heathcliff after his reappearance in Thrushcross Grange. But Heathcliff was denied, was badly treated at one time. Is filled with revenge. He wants to take revenge against these two families, that is Earnshaw family and Linton's family. So with lots of such revengeful intention, he appeared back in Thrushcross Grange, and he slowly plotted out what he has to do. In that plot, first he used Hindley. ಹಿಂಡ್ಲೆ ಅವನ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟಾರ್ಗೆಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಕ್ಯಾಥರಿನ್ಸ್ ಬ್ರದರ್. ಸೊ ಹಿಂಡ್ಲೆ ಹಿಂಡ್ಲೆ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದ ಡೆತ್ ಆಫ್ ಫ್ರಾನ್ಸಿಸ್, ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಫ್ರಾನ್ಸಿಸ್ ಅವರ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಸತ್ತು ಹೋಗ್ತಾಳೆ. ಸತ್ತಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಹಿಂಡ್ಲೆ ವಾಸ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ವೇ ನಾಟ್ ಸೋ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ. ಆ ಒಂದು ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನು ಮರ್ತೇ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾನೆ, ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ ಯಾರು ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಮರ್ತಿರ್ತಾನೆ. ಹಿ ಡಿಂಟ್ ರೆಕಗ್ನೈಸ್ ಹರ್. ಸೊ ಗ್ಯಾಂಬ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಆ ಒಂದು ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇರ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹಿಂಡ್ಲೆಯ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಆಸ್ತಿನ ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ ಅವನ ಹೆಸರು ಬರ್ಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. ದೆನ್ ಅನದರ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಇಸಬೆಲ್ಲಾ ಇದ್ದಾಳೆ, ಇಸಬೆಲ್ಲಾ ಎಡ್ಗರ್ಸ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟರ್. ಇಸಬೆಲ್ಲನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. he started to means attract Isabella's attention. So Catherine feels very jealous of this what relationship in between Isabella and Heathcliff. By convincing Isabella, Heathcliff eloped with Isabella and married with her. So there's all the things which happens, okay, which happens. See here for your reference. So in the first pick, there is Catherine and Heathcliff. The second pick, Catherine and Linton. In the last pick. So we'll come down to the last part of that novel, where again the ghost appears. Okay, especially to make you know more than the ಇದು ಈ ನಾವೆಲ್ ನ ನೀವು ಫುಲ್ಲಿ ಗೋಥಿಕ್ ನಾವೆಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲೂ ಗೋಥಿಕ್ ಇದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಯು ಕಾಂಟ್ expect that. In the first few chapters and in the last chapter you sense that Gothic element, but throughout the novel that revenge, hatredness, romance, anti-hero, villain, and that atmosphere, these all fills the novel with the Gothic elements. So after marrying Isabella, this Linton one side the Linton and another side the Catherine. Catherine felt very jealous, and now her health deteriorated, and she died at the time of her delivery. So ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಮಗು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, that is Kathy. The second generation starts. Kathy is the daughter of Catherine Linton and Edgar Linton. Here on another side, what? Heathcliff and Isabella. Isabella eloped from the hands of, no, not eloped, escaped from the hands of Heathcliff. Why? Because Heathcliff never loved Isabella. He just used her as a pawn to take revenge against Linton and Catherine Linton. So ಯಾವಾಗ ಇವಳಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಇವಳು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಹೊರಟೋಗ್ತಾಳೆ, ದೆನ್ ಶಿ ಗೇವ್ ಬರ್ತ್ ಟು Linton again. Another one, Mr. Linton ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೆಸರಿಡ್ತಾಳೆ ಅವಳು. So the junior Linton and junior Kathy are there in the second generation, but ultimately this man who got hold of these two castles or the family, there is a lost point of revenge, that is to take revenge against the son of Hindley. Hindleyge ಒಂದ್ ಮಗು ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, that is Hareton. ಓಕೆ, ಹೇಟನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಸೇಡ್ ತೀರ್ಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ತುಂಬಾ ಕೆಟ್ಟದಾಗಿ ನಡ್ಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. ಯಾವೆಲ್ಲಾ ರೀತಿಲಿ ಹಿಂಡ್ಲೆ ಹೆತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ ನ ನಡ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಅವನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾನೆ. ಬಟ್ ಸಡನ್ ವಿಸಿಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾಥಿ ಟು ದ ಹೌಸ್ ಆಫ್ Heathcliff, that is Wuthering Heights, given another twist to the story. That is, she came across Linton, and she felt very bad regarding the health condition of Linton. Linton is a very sick person, sick boy, very fragile. So he wants to take care of her cousin. ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ರಿಲೇಶನ್ಶಿಪ್, ನನ್ನ ಕಸಿನ್ ಇದನ್ನಲ್ಲ ಅವನ ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ವೆರಿ ಸೀಕ್ರೆಟ್ಲಿ ಶಿ ವಿಸಿಟ್ಸ್ Wuthering Heights. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅಪ್ಪಂಗೂ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಕಡೆ ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ಗೂ ಇಷ್ಟ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವಳು ಬರೋದು. ಬಟ್ ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ ಲೇಟರ್ ಆನ್ ಥಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ captivating this ಕ್ಯಾಥಿನ ಅವನು ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅವಳನ್ನ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಲಿಂಟನ್ಗೆ ಮದ್ವೆ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್ ನಾವ್ ದಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಎಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ರಿವೆಂಜ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ರೀತಿಲಿ ಅವನು ನಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿ ಡಿಡ್ ದಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಬಟ್ ಲಿಂಟನ್ ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ಸಿಕ್, he died in between. ಅವನು ಸತ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ. Then Hareton and Kathy, they started to feel somewhat good in their companionship. ಅವರಿಬ್ರು ಒಂದು companionship ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಈ ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ಗೆ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಹಿ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಹಿಸ್ interest in everything. He lost his love, he lost his revenge, everything. So he wants to get union with the dead Catherine. ಅವಳು ಸತ್ತಾಗ್ಲೂ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಹಾಂಟ್ ಮೀ. ಅವನೇ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ, ನೀನು ನಾನು ಯು ಕ್ಯಾಂಟ್ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಪೀಸ್, ನೀನು ಇರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾನ್ ಬದುಕಿರೋ ತನಕ. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಹಾಂಟ್ ಮೀ ಅಂಟಿಲ್ ಮೈ ಡೆತ್. ನೀನ್ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು, ನನ್ನನ್ನ ಕಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾನೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಅವನು ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಅವಳ ನೆನಪಲ್ಲೇ ಅವನು ಬದುಕ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ ಅಗೈನ್ ಇಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಫ್ಲಾಶ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಈಗ ಅಗೈನ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಟು ದ ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ನಾವೆಲ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಅವಳ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಒಂದು ಗೋಸ್ಟ್ ಅಪಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದರಿಂದ ಅವನಿಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿ ಫೀಲ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ, ದ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ಯಾಥರಿನ್ ಇನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅರೌಂಡ್ ಉದರಿಂಗ್ ಹೈಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ನನಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಯಾಥರಿನ್, ನನ್ನನ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಲಾಕ್ವುಡ್ ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ಬ ಹೊರಗ್ನವ್ನಿಗೆ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಲಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಯೋಚನೆಯಲ್ಲೇ ಅವನು he in a way isolated himself in a room and he started to try to meet the ghost of Catherine. These all things happens, very weird things. So ultimately he even at the last scene, what part of the story, last chapter of the story, he after 18 years, it almost after 18 years ಅವಳನ್ನ ಬರಿ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಒಂದು ಕಫಿನ್ ನ ಅವನು ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. So he opened that coffin and he started to feel that Catherine is still there. ಅವಳಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ದಾಳೆ, ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಮಲಗಿದ್ದಾಳೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ರೀತಿಲಿ she spent her night with that skeleton, corpus of Catherine. So ಆ ಕಾರ್ಪಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಮಲ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. He wants to get united with that love. So this is how, okay. So the main theme, as I said, love and death, in between the revenge. But apart from this, if you analyze Wuthering Heights, you can analyze it in many ways. So there is a contrast in between class system is there, race is there, and post-colonial elements is there, and a strong gender discrimination is there. So these all things are there in Wuthering Heights. But to tell you regarding love and death, which is a major theme in Wuthering Heights, we have to talk about Gothic. So this Gothic element, you can feel it. I will play a video now, so all of you watch it, then you will get to know. It is from second half of the novel, that is after the death of Catherine. ಅವಳ ಒಂದು ಡೆಲಿವರಿ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವಳು ಸತ್ತಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ how this man Heathcliff spends his day and how he feels, what he says. Those all things are there in this. As I said, in between, more than Gothic or romantic or Victorian, it is amalgamation of all the elements. ಇದನ್ನ ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ಅಂತಾನು ನೀವು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಇಲ್ಲ ರೊಮ್ಯಾಂಟಿಕ್ ನಾವೆಲ್ ಅಂತಾನು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, typical Victorian novel ಅಂತಾನು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. But you sense that the presence of ghost. Why the ghost appears, why the supernatural appears ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ you should know the storyline. That's why I explained each and everything within the stipulated time. ಇರೋ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕತೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನಾನು, main events ನ ಹೈಲೈಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. But you have to read it. Unless you read it, you can't enjoy the story. So such an interesting, very curious suspense ಆ ಒಂದು ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋಂಥದ್ದು. What are the themes of Wuthering Heights? Yes, themes, as I mentioned, love and revenge, the major theme, passionate love of love in between Heathcliff and Catherine. So that's the theme. And revenge, which is there throughout the novel. Okay, ಆ ಒಂದು ಥೀಮ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. And the thing is, death is another major theme. So apart from these are the major themes of the novels. But apart from this, as I said, you can analyze the novel under the this theories of gender, post-colonialism, and class system or racism. These all things are there. How so? spirits and supernatural play a role. Yeah, spirits and supernatural elements. As I mentioned in the basic elements of Gothic novel, ಇದು ನಾನು ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಥರ್ಡ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಫೀಲ್ ದ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಅಪಿಯರೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಗೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಸೂಪರ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ. But throughout the novel there is no such things. Okay, throughout the novels there is no such things like ಅವಾಗ ಕ್ಯಾಥರಿನ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಾಗ್ಲಿ ಆ ಗೋಸ್ಟ್ ಅಪಿಯರೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಯು ಫೀಲ್ ದ ಹೋಲ್ ಅಟ್ಮಾಸ್ಫಿಯರ್ ಇನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅರೌಂಡ್ ದ ಉದರಿಂಗ್ ಹೈಟ್ಸ್ ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಸ್ಟಾಮಿ ವೆದರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಹಾರ್ಶ್ ವಿಂಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಡಾರ್ಕ್ ಕ್ಲೌಡ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ದ ರಫ್ ನೇಚರ್, ವೈಲ್ಡ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ ಹಿಮ್ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾಥರಿನ್, ಅವರ ಒಂದು ನೇಚರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ದ ಆಂಟಿ ಹೀರೋಯಿಕ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ದ ಪ್ಯಾಷನೆಟ್ ಲವ್ ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್, ರೊಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಕ್ಯಾಥರಿನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಟ್ರಯಾಂಗಲ್ ಲವ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಎಡ್ಗರ್ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಹಿತ್ಕ್ಲಿಫ್ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಬಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾಥರಿನ್ ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಅವಳು ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಚಾಯ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಅವಳ ಲೈಫ್ ನ ಅದ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾಳೆ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್, ನಾಟ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಗೋಸ್ಟ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎವ್ರಿ ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಗೋಸ್ಟ್ ಅಪಿಯರ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. These all elements supports the Gothic things. So people feel that there is something hidden. There is something which is unseen. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಣ್ಣು ಕಾಣದೇ ಇರೋ ಒಂದು ಏನೋ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ, ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಇದೆ, ಒಂದು ಸೀಕ್ರೆಟ್ ಏನೋ ಇದೆ ಆ ಹುದರಿಂಗ್ ಹೈಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಫೀಲ್ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಈವನ್ ಲಾಕ್ವುಡ್, who is an outsider, he felt. So those all things which is there in the novel which makes it's a Gothic novel.